Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another thing where I talk about things. Today, we're going to talk about the Wonder Woman movie, because I went to go see that just yesterday, so it's fresh in my mind, and I thought I would talk about it. Warnings though, I'm going to give away a bunch of spoilers. I'm pretty much going to tell you the entire plot. I feel like even if you watch this, it's really not going to diminish your ability to enjoy the movie, because right up front I'm going to tell you that the Wonder Woman movie is really stupid. Like, it's not like good stupid or bad stupid. I'm not saying like, don't go see the movie, it's stupid, I hated it. I'm saying it's just like a really dumb movie. And like, I can like stupid, like I like El Santo movies, El Santo is this Mexican wrestler from like the 50s who ran around and he wrestled with vampire women and things like that. Like, I love that kind of thing. I like MST3K and all that. But definitely, like, it's not a smart movie. And it's pretty funny, like, if you slow down and you think about most of what happens in the movie, everything that everybody does is just varying levels of, like, really, really dumb. And, like, the reveal at the end, like, the twist surprise at the end is, like, really, really dumb. And the whole thing is just really, really dumb. So some people have been oddly praising the movie for this. Like, they're like, oh, like, superhero movies should be dumb. But I think it's one of those things, it's kind of a neutral thing to say about the movie. Like, yeah, like, it's dumb. I mean, it's not trying to be smart, so there's that. But, it's not necessarily good that it's dumb, it's not necessarily bad. So anyway, that said, the movie is also not very fast-paced. It's very visually interesting. Like, I noticed right off the bat, like, the movie starts up, and it opens up on, like, the island that Diana's born on. The island of the Amazons, and there's all these like this choreography going on, and all these like slow motion flips and things like that, and all these like really pretty women with like really cute butts like leaping off of horses and things like that, and doing their stuff, and the movie like takes a really long time. I mean, like, there's a section prior to that that's totally unnecessary, where like Wonder Woman is like working at the Louvre, and she's like, oh, I remember when I was Wonder Woman way back in the day, and she's like has this flashback. It's all just to set up for a flashback, and I don't know why they felt the need to do that, because whatever. But the movie, like I said, the movie's very it's kind of slow paced. So yeah, so you're on the island of the Amazons, and all the Amazons are like doing backflips, and they're just like, oh, whoosh, whoa, wow, we're Amazons, we're training to be Amazons, we're training to do backflips, it's so cool. And for a long time we get scene after scene after scene of like Wonder Woman trying to learn how to like be Wonder Woman, like she's like training in combat, and then like the other Amazonians, like her mom is like, no, Wonder Woman, don't train in combat, you're an Amazonian, you shouldn't be doing this, that's, think, what do the other Amazonians say, So for whatever reason she wants Diana to be the only Amazonian who doesn't know how to fight. And then, like, her sister, Diana's aunt, Wonder Woman's aunt, much more sensibly says, look, like, we're warrior women. Like, this is literally the only occupation that we have on the island. Like, if we don't train Diana to fight, she can't, like, what is she gonna do? She's gonna, like, lay around, be, like, the laziest, fattest Amazonian, like, princess in the entire island? Like, no. So, like, her aunt takes Diana off to go, like, train in secrecy for, like, years. And then, like, there's a scene where, like, the mom finds out about the secret training, and she's like, stop training secretly. And they just, I don't know, they just kind of have this, like, back and forth where, like, the mom just irrationally wants to stop Diana from training in a society where, like, training is all they do. And, like, the aunt is just like, are you stupid? We have to train her. So, yeah, they also set up this whole thing. They're like, we have a sword. It's called the God Stabber. And this kind of struck me as funny. Like I say, it's a really dumb movie. It's not trying to be smart, but, like, it's also not being especially creative, because they have this, like, sword, and they're like, yeah, one day we're gonna stab Ares, the god of war, who's the bad guy, by the way. And we have this sword that we made, and we call it the God Slayer. There was actually not even the God Slayer. They call it the God Killer sword. And I think that's really funny. Like, you look at, like, I don't know, like the closest analog to this, like, you look at, like, Thor from the Marvel Universe, and his hammer is named, like, Mjolnir, like, it has a name. It's kind of like, this is its own identity. It's not just like, this is the man smasher. It's Mjolnir, So she's got this, like, sword, and they're just like, yeah, that's the God Killer. That's the Ares stabbing device, as we call it, or the ASD. So anyway, yes, the mighty sword, the ASD. sits around waiting for someone who is fierce enough to wield it, so that one day they can go and they can stab Ares in his stupid face. And that's kind of what the Amazons are all built up to do. So for quite a long while, we build up all this like stupid back and forth that doesn't even matter. Where like Diana wants to train and everyone tells her no, and and everyone tells her no. And then finally like this biplane just flies over the island and then like crashes in the water. And about this time I got up to go get a drink. I was feeling just a little sick. I think I was a little dehydrated maybe, but I got up and I just like went out and I got some water and I came back, and by the time I'd come back, Wonder Woman had finally got this guy out of the water. I'm not sure exactly how long that scene took, but like I say, kind of a slow movie. So, like, I was like, oh, I like, didn't really miss anything at all, did I? So, yeah, I was only gone for a little while, but I was just long enough to, like, miss whatever exactly happened there. But anyway, she pulls the guy up out of the water, and so it turns out, like, he's wearing, like, a German outfit, and, he was flying a German plane, and then he, like, gets up, and, like, there's all these, like, Germans that are coming ashore. And then they're like, oh, who is that? And they're like, oh, it's the bad guys. And it turns out that what had happened was that this guy was a spy and he'd hijacked a plane and he'd flown it all the way from like the Middle East to like, I don't know, over the Mediterranean, and he like somehow crossed into Wonder Woman's territory. And somehow, I guess, like, the German boats got a beat on him, and they were able to follow his plane, even though I'm not sure exactly how the boats were able to, like, chase him. Because they were, like, hot on his tail. Like, they showed up within minutes of him going down, so it wasn't even, like... I mean, like, they must have been right there, like, right in the area. That, like, it wasn't even like they deployed fighters. They were just like, here are the boats. And they were, like, landing with troops and everything. They were, like, having, like, send the guys. So, the Germans land on the Amazonian shores. And again, like I say, it's just a stupid movie. Like... The Germans are just like, storm the Amazonian shores. So, and this is World War I era, by the way. I gotta point out, because it treats the Germans like they're the Nazis, right? Like, it doesn't kind of look at this as a complex, like, political powder keg. It looks at this as, like, the Germans are just evil. So the Germans are just evil, and they just show up and they just start shooting at the Amazonians. There's no, like... Hello, we are the Germans. It's just sort of like, begin shooting! Like, oh, people, let's shoot them! I think, to be fair, the Amazonians do shoot first. But still, like, there's no, like, parlay or discussion or anything like that. And so then the characters stand around and they have this sort of, like, stilted argument. It's very brief about, like, oh, should we kill this guy in the German outfit that Diana saved? And Diana's like, no. I have a feeling he's going to be my love interest for the rest of the movie, so no. And they're like, well, we couldn't kill the male supporting role, so let's just leave him alive. And so, like, Diana's like, let's let him go. And they're like, no. And then Diana's like, I will willfully refuse you, as I did when you told me not to train in battle, because seriously, this is just getting dumb. Like, everything about this is dumb. I'm so sick of just being told I can't do things. So... Diana gets a boat and she runs away with this guy, and they have like a little scene where she's like, do you want to lay down and sleep with me? And then he's like, oh no, we can't unless we're married. And then like they have a little brief dialogue about sex, and it kind of doesn't go anywhere. And says, okay, you can come in. Okay, you are now in this room with me. Maya was upset; she was isolated from me. So anyway, yes. So they have this little dialogue, and then they come into London, and it becomes kind of about like Wonder Woman interacting with the with World War I era London, and I don't know. This was like kind of another thing. Like they fart around and they don't do anything, and then they meet Ares, and this is funny because like I just say this like very casually, like Ares, like the big villain of the show. They meet him. It turns out that what it is this is why I kind of want to set this up, because you never guess this. But, like, they meet this, like, British diplomat, and he's Professor Lupin from Harry Potter. Like, that friendly-looking guy, like, with the dad mustache and everything like that. Turns out that this guy is Ares, and I tell you this now, because if you go see the movie, I just want you to bear this in mind. And, like, watch and see if there's any foreshadowing at all, anything to hint that Professor Lupin is actually Ares. Because there isn't. I mean, it's the big reveal at the end, but Professor Lupin is actually Ares. So there you go. I spoiled the movie. Now just wait for it and see if I actually, like... I mean, did I ruin any tension for you? Because now that you can watch it, I don't know. We'll get to that point, but seriously, it just comes totally out of left field. So anyway, so at this point, just letting you know, Ares is actually Professor Lupin, and he's trying to negotiate an armistice to end the war. That's right, the god of war is trying to argue an armistice to end the war. So, the spy, he comes in and he explains like, oh, no, I was doing spy work, and I saw that the Germans were trying to develop a new type of mustard gas. And if they develop this new mustard gas, then the war will keep going. And Ares is like, well, they're out of their troops are demoralized, and they don't have any food, and they're out of ammunition, and their political leaders want to end the war. You know, so I figure if we negotiate this armistice, it'll probably end. And then he's like, no, because if they build this new mustard gas, the war will go on forever, because the men will eat the mustard gas. It's got mustard right in the name. The war will just keep going. And they're like, oh, okay. So they explain, the threat of the mustard gas, and they're like, oh, the mustard gas, it's so potent, it'll just go right through your gas mask, except they drop this weird, little bit of exposition about it. This reminds me of the Platinum Robots thing, where, the Legend of Korra was I built these robots out of platinum, so they would be a pure metal, and, if you know about platinum, that's not how it works. And so they were talking about, no one had seen the gas in action, and in the film, there's this weird sort of contradictory element, where in the film they're oh, deploy the gas, and they put on masks, and the masks incinerate, for whatever reason, they're just showing the person, they're yeah, the mask just bursts into flames, or kind of whenever they're sitting around there. I don't know. So that's how the masks don't work, is the masks they melt while the people are wearing them. So, I mean, that makes sense. I guess it's not really a mustard gas. It's more just a highly corrosive cloud of toxic gas. But they refer to it as a special type of mustard gas. And then the British, for whatever reason, are they look at the formula and they're it's a hydrogen-based mustard gas. That means it'll get in through the gas masks. And again, the film shows, the gas mask just melts. But, I mean, if you think about that logically, I feel maybe there was something in the script where they were originally yeah, no, the small molecules of the, combined with the hydrogen, it gets in through the pores of the mask, and if you know kind of about, the way that would work, then that's true. But if you think about it, the reason why they didn't make gases out of light molecules is because if you deploy a poison gas and it's made of a light molecule, a small molecule smaller than oxygen, such that a gas mask wouldn't filter it out, then that means that it's going to float, and as soon as you deploy it, it's not going to sink down into the trenches and stay there killing everybody. It's going to float up into the atmosphere and disperse. So hydrogen-based mustard gas is actually kind of dumb when you think about it, but that's what they tell you it is. They say, yeah, no, it's hydrogen-based. They just give you that little bit of hard science so that if you're a person like me, you can sit there and go, that's really dumb. All right, thanks, movie. Thank you. I wish you just frickin' unobtainium. How hard is it, all right? Just, it's made out of magical fairy dust. Jesus. I don't want to know that it's made out of hydrogen. Don't tell me that, because I know you're full of crap. So anyway, though, magical fairy dust. Oh, am I on one side again? I'm loud and terrible, and this was a bad idea. She changed her mind. So anyway, though, yes, magical fairy dust. Magical fairy dust gas that does whatever. I'm not exactly sure. It doesn't matter. It's totally inconsequential and stupid. So, right. So Ares is all right, so they're developing this gas. Let's just, Professor Lupin Ares, he's let's just continue talking the armistice, because, they don't have any other resources. So if we just get them to sign this paper, saying that, we're going to stop, then we'll move on to negotiating peace, and then we'll be good. And the main characters, including Diana, are no. Diana's I have to go to the front because that's where Ares is going to be, and then I have to stab Ares with the Ares Destruction Sword, the ADS. And Ares is well, I mean, okay. And so he finances their trip to, go to the front. And, and he's, it's, Again, I just want to point out, there's no foreshadowing that Professor Lupin is actually Ares. So it's just all right, yeah, I'll finance your support. And it's really funny because if you think about it, Ares could have been rid of Wonder Woman and never would have had to worry about her by just cooperating with her like this. He's just okay, yeah, all right, go to the front, yeah, see you later. And so, yeah, that's what she does. She goes to the front of, the World War One, the British front, the Western Front. And the British are sitting over there on their side of the trench. And, they're getting down, and, Wonder Woman's like, oh, this is terrible. Like, everybody's being shot at. Like, oh, man, this super duper sucks. Oh, and I should back up before this, like, we assemble this team of, like, guys that, I don't know, for whatever reason, the male supporting role thinks that they should have. I don't even remember the name of the guy that was running around with Wonder Woman. But anyway, though, so, like, they gather up these guys, and, like, one of them's, like, this, like, he's brown. He's, like, a brown dude. And it's important, and I gotta call him a brown dude, because later on, like, he makes a thing of it, but I couldn't remember what nationality he was, which I thought was funny, because Claudia and I both thought that he was, like, from Spain. Like, you know, like, southern Spain. But then, like, he was wearing a fez a lot of time, so he might have been from, like, northern Morocco. Like, I don't know. Like, but he does this little spiel where he's like, yeah, it's really tough being a brown guy. And, like, afterward, I was talking to Claudia, and I was like, what nationality do you think he is? Because there's, like, a lot of nationalities of, like, brown guy. And, like, you know, you can't just say, like, yeah, it's tough. I mean, like, it's tough, but it's tough differently depending on where you are. Like, I don't know, there's a kind of a context base. He doesn't really get into it, so, I mean, it doesn't really matter. But his thing that he does is he's like, yeah, I wanted to be an actor, but, like, brown people can't act. And Diana's just like, oh, okay, wow, that makes sense. So, I mean, like, I don't know. Because I feel like if he was from Spain, I mean, like, there must have been theaters in Spain, and he could have been an actor in Spain, I think. And I don't know about, like, Morocco. I mean, like, Morocco is, as far as, like, you know, those sort of, like, North African countries go, I'm pretty sure that they're better developed. I mean, like, they're still, like, I don't know, like, that's like Casablanca, Fez, and whatever, but I mean, like, there's, you know, I don't know, it's complex, like, it was sort of weird, like, he just said that, and I was just like, what nationality was this guy again? Like, why can't he get an acting job? Like, I mean, at least in Spain, like, they didn't really have radio then, so there wasn't, like, as much of the sort of, like, international broadcasting kind of thing. Like, I mean, you wouldn't really... I mean, it's like, I don't know, like, wouldn't you just be an actor in your own nationality? But I don't know, whatever it was, you know, he thought he couldn't act because he was brown. So that came up, and then they also met, like, a Native American, and that went through me for a while. Like, I thought, like, he shows up and he speaks in, like, his Native American language, and, like, Diana establishes that she can speak all languages, and so she, like, replies to him in the language that he's speaking. But that was also kind of an interesting one, because like, I didn't think that he was Native American, because it just seemed really weird and out of place for, like, this Native American guy to be on the British front and not really associated with, like, American forces at all. Like, he was just kind of, like, there, and he was, like, wearing, like, the feathers and, like, the garb, you know, and everything like that. So I was just like, you know, I don't know, like, is this dude actually a Native American? And then later on, he was like, oh yeah, I'm actually a Native American. And as soon as, like, everyone went to sleep and he got a chance to, like, talk to Wonder Woman, like, they were like, oh, so tell me about yourself. And he's like, well, like, that guy's people stole all my people's land. And I just kind of, like, again, this is sort of just this funny, like, the movie's just very dumb, and they just kind of, like, approach these sort of, like, delicate political subjects with, like, all the grace of just, like a drunk, like, orangutan. You know, like, they just kind of, like, stumble right into that one. Just like, yeah, that guy's people stole my people's land. And Diana's like, oh, that's horrible. And I kind of, like, was thinking about it, and I was like, I mean, if you're looking at, like, Diana as being this person who's lived, like, in isolation from the rest of the world for all of her life, and you just, like, come up to her and you're like, yeah, that guy's people stole my people's land. It sounds like a recent thing, right? It doesn't sound like it happened, like, 200 years ago. And it doesn't really explain to her, like, she doesn't really maybe understand that there's, like, an American country over on the other side of the ocean. Like, she thinks that, like, that man's people currently are actively occupying that man's land and, like, sort of a hostile military takeover or something like that. Like, that's sort of the implication. Like, you, the viewer, know that it's not how that is, but, like, in character, Diana should be just, like, thinking that, you know, there's this conflict going on somewhere else that she probably should be involved with or whatever. I don't know, it's just funny, like, and it kind of cracked me up that, like, this guy had known Diana for less than 5 minutes, and he was just, like, he just brings that up, he just kind of, like, drops that on her, and it's sort of like, again, you would expect it to be kind of common knowledge, I guess, and maybe, like, Diana was acting naive, so maybe she thought she just needed to know, but I just thought it was really funny, because after that, he doesn't really do anything. And there was a moment, like, I think he was supposed to be a smuggler or a thief or something like that. Like, I recall them saying something about that before they went and they picked that guy up. But I might be wrong. Because, again, like, most of what the movie is doing is completely irrelevant and stupid. Like, there is no real plot to the movie. It's just a very stupid movie, but it's visually stimulating and visually interesting. So anyway, though, so like, this guy, like, he just shows up to essentially say that, like, yeah, it'd been, like, the white man stole my land, and then, like, later on he steals a car. And I was thinking about it, and, like, maybe in, like, one of the original drafts of the script, they had kind of a funny comedic element going on. Like, maybe this guy was, like, a kleptomaniac, but he was, like, using the, like, oh, the white man stole my land thing as, like, a justification for it. So he'd be, like, stealing a watch, and they'd be like, no, it's okay, the white man stole my land. And he'd steal a car, and he'd be like, no, it's all right, the white man stole my land. And, you know, there are people who would find that really funny. Like I don't know, like when you grow up in that environment, you know, it would be comical to have, like, this sort of, like, anti-heroic, like, guy running around being like, nah, like, it's all right for me to steal from the Germans because the white people stole my land. It's like, not even the Germans stole your land. Like, it's just absurd on so many levels, and it would be really funny. But maybe they thought that would be, like, they were like, actually, that's culturally kind of insensitive. So they decided not to do it. And I mean, like, it's too bad if that's the way they decided. Like, I can understand why they would do that and maybe shy away from it because it would provoke outrage from some people. But I think for the people who would have been thick-skinned enough to feel like it was a funny joke, it would have been kind of a funny, like, character quirk, and that guy would have had a lot more stuff going on. He would have been on screen more, and he would have been kind of endearing. I would have really liked him. I've been like, like, he knows he's not really supposed to be stealing everything, but he just makes it like okay. But anyway, though, so yes, the brown guy says he can't act because he's brown. The Native American's like, I can't do my land. And there was an Irish guy, yeah, I believe he was Irish. And so I thought that they were gonna do something with, like, the Irish persecution, but then they didn't. Like they were just like, they got this Irish guy, and I was like, oh, I see what the movie's doing. They're going over all these, like, various cultural, like, grievances, and everyone's gonna bring up their grievance to Diana, and Diana's gonna be like, oh my, how horrible. Like, how horrible. And then the movie gets all these brownie points in Hollywood, because that's what Hollywood is really into right now, is that kind of, like, social commentary. And I guess they've always really been into that. But then they didn't. Like, the Irishman had, like, PTSD, I guess. He had nightmares. But, I mean, aside from that, he didn't really do much of anything. He sang a song, and everyone was like, cool, what a nice Irishman. And, I don't know, he didn't get a grievance. He didn't get to complain about, you know, anything. So, you know, whatever. Like I said, it would have been like a drunk orangutan anyway. Even had they done it, it just would have been like, yes, the Irish were also persecuted. And Diana would have been like, oh no, and then they would have just kept going because, like, seriously, what were they going to say or do about it? So anyway, they go to the trenches, and Diana's like, oh, this is awful. Everyone's shooting at each other. And the guys, they're all like, yeah, like, oh, it's really bad. Come on, we have to keep moving. And Diana's like, no, we have to go on the other side and go beat up the Germans because they're evil and they're Nazis later. Not yet, but they will be. And then like, they're like, no, Diana, listen, like, they've been on this front for, like, over a year, and they haven't really gained any ground at all. You know, there's machine guns on the other side, and there's guys, and like, these like, 4 British people over here have been fighting this for, like, all this time. And Diana's like, well, I can't just stand by. And so she gets up, and she goes over the top, and she, like, runs out until they start shooting machine guns at her. And then she gets out the shield, and she just, like, sets herself down out there with the shield. And she's like, all right, this is as far as I go. And so her compatriots, her male supporting roles, are all like, well, we can't let Diana go up there alone. Come on, guys, over the top. So, like, these other 4 guys get up, and they, like, go over the top. And the other, like, 4 British soldiers that were on screen are like, no, don't go. They're crazy. So the other guys stay down. It's just like Wonder Woman and these 4 guys. And so you cut over to, like, there's, like, these 10 Germans on the other side of the trench, and they're like, oh, Wonder Woman's coming at us. So they start to fire the gun. I should just leave the door open, I guess. So they start to they fire the machine guns, and like, they don't shoot at the guys coming over. Like, they just, like, focus all of their fire, like, 100% of their attention on Wonder Woman while she, like, dramatically poses for the shot. And so, like, the guys come over, and, like, while the machine gunners are shooting Wonder Woman, like, they just take their rifles and they're just like, bang, reload, bang, you know, like, it's just like they just shoot, like, all 10 Germans on that side of the trench, and bam, they've conquered the entire, like, that whole front. Like, everyone moves up. They take over. Like, they overran the Germans, all 10 of them. And it was, like, just like, man, movie. Like, it was, I get it, visually entertaining, but just massively stupid. Like, the movie is just so dumb. So yeah, like, 10 Germans defeated, and that was all that was guarding that entire front. So they move along to this like town where they get in another fight, and again, like like it was visually stimulating fight, but then there's like a sniper in this bell tower, and he's just like shooting at people, and it's kind of funny because like they panic and they're like, oh, sniper, and everyone runs for cover, and I don't really understand because the sniper was like, you know, he was like here's the street, there's the sniper, like he's like right up there within range of everybody's weapons, and he's just like sitting there in the window. He's just like, hey guys, I'm sniping you up here. It's like freaking like the TF2 sniper or something like that. Like it's about that level of sniping. It wasn't like he was like 1,000 yards away. He was just like right up there, like he was within range of the demo man. Like the demo man could have shot grenades at him, and so yeah. So anyway, so the TF2 sniper is up there in this bell tower, and so what they do is like Wonder Woman leaps up into the bell tower and like punches the bell tower over, and they crush the sniper. And then everyone's like, oh yeah, you're heroes. You defeated the 10 or so Germans that were occupying our tiny little town. Like great, like in total you conquered this entire area now. So I think within that same day-ish, they go to like this party that's being held. Oh, I should point out, okay, so there's this evil German, and again, the plot doesn't matter, so this doesn't matter, but there's like this evil German general who wants to develop this mustard gas, and it's kind of like the crux of the movie, I guess. But anyway, though, he wants to develop this mustard gas, and like they develop the mustard gas, and then like he goes to his like the high command where everyone's like talking about like the armistice, and he comes in and he's like, how's it going, everyone? And they're like, oh, we're just planning the armistice because we're failing and we're going to lose. We're out of food and all of our troops are dead and we have no ammo and we want to end the war. And the German goes, no, you will not end the war because I have built the mustard gas. And so the other German, like the other guys, they're just like, listen, Hans, we can't eat mustard gas. We have to end the war. And he's like, no. So he just kills the entire German high command. He just throws the mustard gas on top of them. So now don't have ammo. They don't have food. They don't have, like, their morale is broken, and their chain of command is dead. So they're in total chaos, and they have no idea what they're gonna do next. And they were negotiating the armistice, so that's also, like, just completely up in the air. No one knows what's happening anymore. It's the worst ever. This general, for whatever reason, though, thinks that this is the surest path to victory for Germany, is to completely ruin everything worse than it already was. So, yes, very evil German. So immediately after killing all the German high command, he decides he should throw a gala, and during this gala, what he's going to do is he's going to fire the mustard gas that he's built into the town that the heroes just conquered. Now, mind you, this town was controlled by the Germans, like, when he was planning this event. So he was originally planning to gas his own men. Luckily for him, Wonder Woman pushed through and got a bunch of British forces into that town before he could have his gala. Because he had to send out invites and everything. There was like music and entertainment, like the servants were putting up chairs. Like, he planned it all out. And he would, like, from the very beginning, he was like, yes, we're going to fire the guns at the town occupied by our own people. German citizens. We're just gonna kill them all. So, yes, this is the plan for the gala. This is the evil German. He's got very evil. And he's just kind of like farting around the party. And so the spy's like, yeah, I'll go in and I'll be a spy. And I'll start talking to people and I'll find out information. So he goes in, and then before he can, like, extrapolate any information from anybody, Wonder Woman walks in a dress that she stole from a woman that she beat up. Like, they have a whole scene where they show how the male supporting role got in with his friend. Like, the brown guy puts on, like, a turban, and they go up, and like, the male supporting role, the British guy, is like, give them our invitations, and then the brown guy's like, oh, I cannot, I am Indian, and therefore incompetent. And then, like, there was like, oh, you're so Indian, and so incompetent, and so generically brown. Like, oh, no one would ever, oh, I'm so mad at you, oh. And so the guy handling the gates is like, I don't care, just go on ahead, it's a waste of time. So yeah, I was thinking the whole thing is just kind of stupid. No, I don't want that. Just want the option, I guess. All right, we'll just leave the door open. So anyway, though, not wanting to like do his job, the German officer in charge of collecting tickets just says, okay, go ahead. I don't, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We're going to bomb our own people soon, and this man is definitely being tried for a lot of war crimes. So yeah, they go in, and then Diana, like, beats up a woman, and she steals her dress, and they don't show how Diana got into the party. Like, I guess she just, like, walked in the back way or something like that. I mean, she does have super strength. She can super jump. So, again, very stupid movie. I don't know. Like, I don't know. It doesn't matter. She just goes to the party. And she, like, walks up straight to the General, General Hans, and she dances with him for a while. And then he's like, you know what I think? I think Ares, the god of war, is just the hunkiest ever god of war. And like, Diana's like, Ares is butt. And he's like, you don't understand Ares like I do. And then he, like, storms off. And it's kind of funny because it's trying to make you think that, like, the general is actually Ares. But again, I remind you, he's not Ares. Professor Lupin is Ares. Even though Professor Lupin, you notice I haven't really, like, talked about him doing anything at all? Yeah, it's because he hasn't really done anything. Aside from financing the team, like, to send them away on this stupid mission, he's done nothing. So Professor Hans, he's just like, yes, Ares is the best, and then he, like, storms off after Diana insults Ares. And so Diana has her sword with her. She has it in the party. She just got it, like, tucked in the back of her dress somehow. And so she's just, like, she goes to pull her sword, and then, like, the male supporting role grabs her, and he's like, don't do that. And then she's like, she gets all mad, and she's like, you've been corrupted by Ares too, because you won't let me stab him in the middle of his own, like, business party. And the supporting role is like, no, I do want you to stab him. I just want you to stab him in a more appropriate venue, okay? And she's like, no, you're dumb. And so they fire off the mustard gas, and it poisons the town, and, like, Wonder Woman runs in, and I guess she's immune to poison gas, because she just goes in, and she's like, everyone's dead. I don't understand why this happened. And everyone else is like, I don't understand either. I don't know. This movie's really dumb. And so, like, Wonder Woman, I can't even remember how we get to the next part. Like, oh, that's right, the Native American, he used the smoke signals. He puts up smoke signals, and he's like, the general went over here. And so, they like, run to him, and he's like, hey guys, he's over there. He's over that hill. So they just, like, go over the hill to where the general went. It turns out that he went to, like, an airfield that was just, like, a few feet from his mansion that he was holding the gala at. And they're, like, loading up a plane full of, like, the mustard gas that they just deployed on this town to demonstrate its efficiency. And again, I don't know why they did that, because it's a secret weapon, I guess, and not, like, why? Like, I don't know, like, are you keeping it secret? I don't know, stupid movie. So, Wonder Woman goes up into, like, the tower where General Hans is located, and she's like, General Hans, I am here to stab you. And he gets out this, like, one of the other gases they make is, like, a super strength gas, and I thought that was going to be important, but he, like, cracks it open and he inhales it, and it gives him super strength, just long enough for him to punch Wonder Woman, like, once or twice before he gets his ass stabbed, and then he's dead, and that's it. And so Wonder Woman is just like, well, that was, like, a 5-minute battle, but I'm pretty sure that was Ares I just killed. You know, I mean, that was about what I was expecting based on the stories. I'm pretty sure he would just be like an old pudgy fat man who would die as soon as I stabbed him. Like, I mean, it was the God's killer sword. It was the Ares destroying sword, the ADS. You know, what else could have happened? And so, she's looking around and she sees that the Germans are still loading up the plane with the bombs. And then she's like, oh no! They're still, like, doing what they were doing before! Somehow killing Ares, and them not knowing that Ares is dead didn't free them of corruption, and they're still wanting to bomb you. And so the British guy is like, listen, I don't know what to tell you, but it might be possible the Germans actually just want to bomb us. And then she's like, no, why? Like, what possible reason could there be other than, like, mind control? And then he's like, well, it's complicated. We've given you a pretty narrow explanation for virtually everything that's happened so far, and none of this makes sense anyway. But just point being, the Germans might have had a reason for getting into this war in the first place that wasn't strictly related to mind control from a god. And then she's like, go away, you stupid animal, I don't want to see you anymore. Like, go run in the wild, go be free. You don't deserve me, I'm Wonder Woman. And so, the male supporting role, he goes back down and he, like, finds his friends. He's like, yeah, sorry guys, she says we're free in the wild. So now we're gonna go eat bugs and berries and things like that. And so Wonder Woman just, like, hangs out and she pouts. And then Professor Lupin shows up. And he's like, hi, Wonder Woman. And she's like, what? Like, you're that guy from, like, earlier in the movie. What are you doing here? And he's like, I was Ares. It was me the whole time. And, like, at this point, like, I was just, like, laughing. I was like, this is Professor Lupin. Like, this doesn't look like the god of war. Like, he's not, like, a big, tough-looking guy. He's not, like, a villainous type of person. But he just shows up and he's like, I was Ares. It was me. It may as well have been, like, Carlton Banks for all that it mattered. It could have been, there was, like, a secretary in an earlier part of the movie that was, like, playing comic relief. It could have been her. It could have been some random background character. It could have been anybody. There was no foreshadowing whatsoever. This character was not a major contributor to anything. He wasn't really pulling any strings. He wasn't orchestrating anything. There was no hints, nothing. Just Professor Lupin just shows up and he was like, it was me. Like, it could have been freaking like Charlie Chaplin for all it mattered. It didn't matter. Doesn't matter who it was. So, yes, so Professor Lupin shows up and oh, big reveal, he was Ares all along. And so Wonder Woman takes the Ares destroying sword and she like stabs it into his hand and it just like the sword disintegrates. And Ares is like, you know, I don't know, like, I'm sorry, you've been lied to all your life, like, you weren't going to be able to stab me to death with the Ares destroying sword, because it's actually just a regular sword. The power is in you. Just putting that out there. Like, he tells her that, he's just like, yeah, the power's actually in you. I mean, like, you're Zeus's daughter, so you have the ability to kill me, but the sword does not, so that was dumb and a waste of time trying to stab me. And anyway, the thing I came here to tell you was, instead of just lying low and, like, letting this all blow over, was that, humans are dirt. Like, people are just dirt, Diana. I mean, look around. Like, the Germans are still gonna bomb these people. Like, I didn't do anything. And this was, like, funny. This is my favorite part of the movie when Ares reveals that he didn't do anything. I mean, he kinda did. Like, the Germans were looking for a weapon to, like, gas everyone. So Ares, like, whispered in their minds the formula to make the gas they wanted. Like, he kinda helped them develop weapons. But in a way, I mean, like, other than serving for inspiration to complete tasks that they were already bent on doing, he didn't do anything. Like, he was completely blameless, really. He was trying to negotiate an armistice. Ares probably did more good in the movie. I mean, if you really look at that than anything, like, he didn't think that the Germans were going to respect the armistice. Like, that's why the armistice, that's why he was negotiating it, because he was trying to, like, prove that, oh, you know, like, humans are dirt. But, I mean, by trying to negotiate a form of peace, he was probably really doing more on a grand scale than Wonder Woman was to stop the war. And and so he explains all this, and he's like, yeah, I mean, like, I was negotiating peace and, you know, trying to do all this, and I mean, like, I did give them inspiration for the weapons, but they were going to use them anyway, and I'm pretty sure that they would have gotten to those weapons sooner or later. It just would have taken them longer if I didn't help. And Wonder Woman's like, that's pure evil, helping people with their science projects when they're doing science for war. Like, that's bad. Like, I don't know what kind of developments would come of being able to make, like, a heavy, lighter-than-air chemical. I mean, that seems, like, really self-contradictory, but still, I'm gonna stab you. And so, like, Ares just does this thing. They have this, like, little back and forth where, like, Professor Lupin is just like, I don't know, people are butts. I hate people. And Wonder Woman's like, I don't seem that bad. And then he's like, well, let's fight then. Let's have a battle. And so Ares just, like, fights her, because I guess that's all that Ares knows how to do, other than how to negotiate peace and be calm and reasonable. And then the male supporting role hijacks the airplane, and he explains to them, like, they're like, oh, like, maybe we should just take the airplane and then just, like, I don't know, dump it somewhere. And then they're like, no, you can't just dump the airplane because it's got a timer, right? And when the timer goes off, the bombs will just explode even though they're on the plane. And because, you know, this was standard procedure when you were the Germans in World War I, was you would send out bomber craft and you would time the bombs to just blow up the plane in case of turbulence, or you were late, you know, if you're delayed, or if you had to, like, go land on another airstrip because of, like, some kind of mechanical failure, you know, that you put the bombs on the timer so that your plane would just explode and everybody on it would die. That's how that works. So they were like, yes, you can't just, like, take the plane somewhere else. You can't just hijack the plane because it'll explode. Because we did that. You know, it's a stupid movie. Of course that's how that works. So he goes, is the gas flammable? And they're like, yeah. And so he goes, they're like, it's made of hydrogen, so yes, it's flammable. And then he's like, all right, well, I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to fly the plane up really high and then, like, blow it up. And they're like, all right, I can see no other way to resolve this problem, so good for you. But, like, if you think about this timer thing, and this is really funny, is that, like, the timer is set to go off, like, I don't know, like, when they're over London, I guess? And I mean, like, again, this is really weird. Like, how precise would your timing have to be to predict a flight? Like, they're flying a biplane, right? It's like, it's an old school biplane, like, bomber. It's really big, but it's just like, it's a bomber biplane. And the idea is that they've got the timer set to go off after they drop the bombs in London. But that's kind of a long flight for a biplane. Like, we're talking, like, at least a couple of hours, I would expect. So you'd be, like, timing it, you'd be like, all right, now remember to drop the bombs at, like, precisely 3 p.m., because if you drop them too soon, they won't go off, and if you drop them too late, it'll just blow up in your plane and kill you. So it's just, like, the dumbest possible thing. But anyway, though, so he's got, like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 hours to fly this plane anywhere he wants, anywhere besides London. And he doesn't think like, oh, I'll just fly the plane out over the ocean and then ditch it, you know, and maybe I'll survive from there, you know, just kind of sit on the glide path out over the water. He doesn't think that. He instead decides that he's just going to blow up the plane. So he sacrificially commits suicide to save the day. And then Wonder Woman goes, oh, no! And it's like this big dramatic moment to give her the force, the willpower to rise up and beat up Ares. And like that's like this climactic moment. And this is not the first time I've seen these DC films do this, but then they have another climactic moment that's identical, but it stops the first climactic moment, is what she does. She's like, oh no, I realize now the sacrifice, and so she gets up and she's fighting Ares and she's gaining momentum, and then her momentum stops dead in her tracks because the researcher who developed the gas runs out in front of her, and then Ares is like, look at her, she's dirt, because humans are dirt, and you should squish her with a tank. And so Diana stops and she has this moral conundrum, even though she was just overcome with emotion and willpower to defeat Ares like a second ago. And it's weird because like you think that you would want to reverse this in the script. Like you would want her to be like, oh, like here's this human and she's dirt and she's making all these problems and I should squish her. And then the plane explodes and then she's like, oh, my boyfriend, like there's good in humanity after all. But it's kind of reversed. It's like, oh, my boyfriend, there's good in humanity after all. And then like the woman runs out and Ares is like, look, there's also bad in humanity. And then she's like, oh, yeah, that's right. And she stops and she thinks about it. And she's just like sitting there and Ares is like, yeah, see, look at her. She's kind of gross and sort of like, I don't know, icky, like squish her. And Diana's like, nah. And she changes her mind and then she beats Ares. He shoots lightning at her. She catches it with her bracers. And then she shoots the lightning back at him. And Ares presumably dies. Movie over. That's it. So, yeah, that's, like I say, really dumb, not very well paced. The acting, you know, had its ups and downs. There were some really stilted scenes. There was a lot of really kooky, stupid scenes. The logic was just totally non-existent. Really dumb movie. There were only a couple of scenes, though, where I was really bored and wanted them to move on. So it did much better than Batman vs. Superman. I'll give it that, but Batman vs. Superman was kind of an awful movie. So, yes. You could go see it. It's fine. Like I say, it's visually stimulating. But I don't expect that you would remember it in like a year or so, because almost everything in it was dumb and forgettable, and didn't really have any kind of string of logic that you would be able to like tie any sort of emotional value to. You'd just be like, yes, that was a movie. Definitely lots of movie going on here. Entertaining, but just so dumb. So dumb. So, yeah, Wonder Woman beats Ares. God of War, he was Carlton Banks. And he was doing more good for the world than Wonder Woman was at the time. Strange. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. So that's it. That's my summary of Wonder Woman. Like I say, if you enjoyed the movie, you enjoyed the movie. That's fine. It wasn't really a bad movie. It was just a little dumb, a little stupid. So that'll be it. Thanks for joining me, everybody. I will catch you all next time.